More businesses are on the path to opening their doors in Texas. Governor Greg Abbott gave us a lot of information today, setting a date for hair salons to reopen, new rules for gyms, and guidelines for weddings. My co-anchor Aaron Wright joins me now with the highlights. Aaron?
Hey, Deb, May 8th for hair salons, May 18th for gyms and businesses like that, and a whole lot of clarifications today about businesses that are already open. And even those hair salons and gyms, they're going to see some new restrictions in place once they open their doors. Governor Abbott today amended some clarification and made some clarifications to his executive order. He clarified standards for parks, rivers, rafting, beaches, saying they will be treated the same standard as parks across the state. He's asking people to maintain 6 feet of separation and no groups bigger than a household or 5 people traveling together. On restaurants, the governor says that 25% maximum occupancy applies to indoor seating, not outdoor, but businesses have to keep up social distancing if seating people outside. Weddings are now treated the same as funerals, memorials, and burials, all treated the same as church services with limited seating arrangements. Governor Abbott strongly encouraged people at risk to watch remotely. He is highly recommending masks, but says that there will not be a penalty for not wearing one. The governor explaining today that it is on us, it is on Texans across the state to stop this virus. He's saying that masks are a great tool for protecting people, but he is not mandating or requiring that everyone wear them, nor is he making a punishment for anyone not wearing one. Deb, back to you.
All right, Aaron, thank you.